Hi, I'm here to help you level up your classroom. I want to help you create a system for digital badging. Now, I suggest you have a little bit of experience in order to keep up here. You're going to need to be familiar with Google Sheets and Google Drawing basics. Also, be sure you're comfortable with Control C to copy and Control V to paste. And then how to get a shareable link. That'll be included here. Have your Google Drive opened in a new tab and let's begin. The premise for what we're doing here is gamification. That is, incorporating game-like elements into the classroom. Now, keep in mind when we're talking about badging, our focus is on the mastery of learning something. It's not on awarding a grade. And note that simply giving badges is not gamifying in and of itself. It's just a really great element to add to a gamification system. So I have a little bit of recommended reading. Explore Like a Pirate by Michael Matera gives you wonderful, wonderful toolkit ideas for gamifying your classroom, badging just being one of those elements. Now, you might be surprised at how you can gamify what you're already doing in your classroom. When I first started bringing badging in to my classroom, I already had so many elements that just lent itself well. This is a video that a colleague took as I introduced badging to my third grade students. In the video, you can tell that my kids were already familiar with what we had in place. The awarding of the badges then was just an element to get them a lot more motivated and excited. This piece then I created for students for a separate area of badges that they could award. But the idea is it's stuff you already are doing. So think about a skill you want your students to learn, or maybe you have an assessment that they need to perform well on. And this can involve multiple attempts. You want them to master, not just a once and done kind of thing. What kind of a badge could you create for a student to earn based on a single piece? Kind of formulate that in your heads. That's what I did. I thought about things I was already doing and taking these ideas. What could I make basic badges of? And then I created badges. These are two things I have for my students. I like them to find 10 words in context at a time and infer the meaning of those words, what I think it means, and this is how I know. Then later they go to define those things. I also have my kids look at images as they dive in with their thinking. I use it for them to plan and write strong paragraphs and as they observe and infer. So as they're learning that, I'd like to then award their mastery. Now, these are just two badges of many that I've got going on in my classroom. This is the badge catalog, so to speak, that I've got. So our goal here is going to be to set up your own starter badge system that's very easy to grow and maintain. We're going to do this using Google Sheets and Drawings. This isn't something I figured out on my own. I used Alice Keeler's Teacher Tech website directions. I spent a whole day going through this to set mine up. And so I'm hoping that I'm able to take this system and simplify it so that you can create something in this short session. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start by creating a new spreadsheet. So I'm going to open one up. And we're going to then use these headings: code, badge title, info, badge link, badge. I personally add criteria to mine. This is more for me, I guess, because I like to detail out what is it specifically I want students to do to earn the badge. So this is, of course, optional. But definitely get these 5 headings. That's the core of what you're doing. And then you want to title your sheet Master Badge List. This is going to be your teacher tool. Now, in your Google Drive, make a folder for the badges you're going to make. So create a new folder. I title mine badging. And then within that new folder, create a Google drawing. So go to New and select Google Drawing. Once you get your Google Drawing, we want to resize the canvas to a custom size because we actually want a small, tiny badge. You're going to do this by going to your File menu, and you're going to select Page Setup. When you select Page Setup, we want to go to Custom, and then the arrow at the side there is for pixels. We want to select pixels, and we want to enter 100 by 100. This is going to give us a very small badge size, even though on our screen it's going to look large. So double check and make sure you have 100 by 100 pixels. Now what's great is any shape or color will work. I found when I was creating, I started just with simple circles and simple colors. So you can select your symbol and your custom color. And then you can add text and or a fun image. When you add text, make sure your text is simple because it's still going to be very small. And then make sure if you're searching for an image, you do that image insert. You can go to search right there and find something quickly and select it. Once you have the badge the way you want it, you're going to go to File and select Publish to the Web. This is going to give you a link that you can use. So select Publish. Yes, you're sure you want to do this. You're going to get, it says make your content visible. You want to copy the link that you get. We're going to need this link. So highlight it, Control C to copy. And now we're going to go back to our master badge sheet, and we're going to go to the badge link column, and we're going to paste it in there. Then I like to wrap that text to contain it in the cell. So come over to this icon, and when you click the arrow, you're going to get that swooping arrow to wrap. Now, we can add codes and titles later. If you've got one in mind right now, that's great. For my Word Wizard badge, the code that I use is WW for Word Wizard, and then the title of my badge is Word Wizard. Now we want to see the badge image in our spreadsheet to make sure it looks the way we want. So we're going to go to the badge column, and we're going to enter a formula. We're going to start with equals, image, parentheses. I'm going to type that in exactly. Then the cell letter or the column. So we're going to get the link from column D. And then we want the number or the row. And we're working in row 2. So we're going to do D2. We want no spaces, and we're going to do a comma 3. 3 then is the sizing. We don't want it too large. We don't want it small. We want it to appear just the right size. So after you do that, enter another parentheses, and then click enter overall for that cell. And you're going to watch your badge appear. You can adjust your cell size if you need to make that badge fit just right by enlarging the cell. You do this then for every badge you create. Badges then can be easily added or modified anytime because you've got this master sheet going. We're going to make a second badge for what we're doing today. You can either just repeat the entire process we did, or make a copy of the badge you have and then make your changes. I personally like to do this option so that I don't have to go in and create, the custom pixels and everything every time. You do that by going to File, Make a Copy. If you do this, make sure you put that copied badge in your badge folder, or it'll be anywhere in your drive. Now, go through the steps again, creating your badge to complete it. So, get it styled the way that you like. colors, images, words. Remember to publish it to the web by going to that file menu and selecting publish to the web. When you've done that, you copy the link. You go back to your master spreadsheet and you paste that link in there. Make sure that you wrap the text. Use the formula equals image parentheses, remembering that the cell number is going to change because you're going down to the next row, but not the letter. So each time you equal that image, you will change your row number. And ta-da! You have your second badge. Now we could, of course, keep making badges, but we're just going to use these two to move on to the next step. We're going to create our student sheet template. This part's going to get tricky, but once we set it up, we can make copies for each student. It's fantastic. We have to start with another new spreadsheet. So we're going to have a master spreadsheet and we're going to have a student spreadsheet. Within this student spreadsheet now, we want to go all the way to the bottom and we want to add a second sheet within this sheet by clicking that plus. Then we want to rename sheet 2 to badge list. So we need to click the arrow next to sheet 2, select rename, and rename this badge list. It's important that we keep sheet 1 as is. You'll see why later. So sheet 1 and badge list. Now, I'm going to pause just for a second because I want to make sure everybody knows how to get a link for the master spreadsheet because that's going to become critical in our next step. So if you tab back to your master badge sheet and you see your blue share at the top, click that, and depending on how your settings are, you might already get anyone within your organization can view, or you can make changes by clicking a shareable link. You want to be able to copy that link because we're going to need to do that to link up our master sheet to our student sheet. So go ahead and get that link and copy it. Now here's where we're going to link that master badge sheet. We have to import it to our student sheet using a formula. We're going to enter this in the first cell of the student sheet and make sure you're on that badge list sheet. So in the very first cell, you want to type in equals import range parentheses quotation mark, no spaces. Put all of that in. Then you're going to copy and paste your master spreadsheet link. Remember, you've copied it. So paste it after you've got equals import range parentheses quotation mark, no spaces. At the end of that great big long link, you want to add these things, no spaces. You want to do another set of quotation marks, then a comma, then quotation marks again. You want capital S, sheet, 1, exclamation point, A, colon, D, quotation marks, parentheses again. You want all of these things. Okay, so what it's going to look like up in that cell bar is equals import range parentheses quotation marks. Your link alone is the largest part. Then at the end of your link, another parentheses, a comma, another quotation mark, a comma, quotation mark, sheet 1, exclamation point A, colon, D, quotation mark, parentheses. Please check and make sure you have everything exactly. If you don't, it will not link properly and you'll know immediately. So, if it worked, you're going to notice that you didn't import your badge images. You may get a prompt that says allow access, which you want to do. You're telling the two sheets they can communicate with each other. If you get hashtag reference, then something is off in your formula and you need to go back and check each individual element. So you don't have badge images here. We didn't import those because we don't want the students to see what the badges are looking like. Should they happen to access this badge list sheet that we're creating? Hopefully they won't, because later we're going to hide this sheet, but we know we all have savvy students, so that's why we're doing it. Here's the best part. Now that you've linked these two sheets, you've got your link to your master badges. Anytime you go into that master badge and you update it or you make new badges, student page automatically uploads or links to it. I had badges that I created a couple months ago, and just last week I decided to create a new badge, whipped it up within minutes, boom, it was already ready for all of my students. So it's pretty awesome. Now we want to be able to easily award these badges. So to do this, we're going to make sure we have a code for each badge earned. And then we need a sheet to enter those codes. So within our student sheet, we want to go back to sheet 1. We don't want to change the name of sheet 1. And we only want that first column. So in the first cell, we're going to type in badge codes. We want to delete the rest of the columns here. We want to get rid of B through Z. So we can highlight them by clicking on the top and then dragging across to highlight the whole thing. Sometimes I find it's easier to start at Z and highlight it across. It'll all turn blue. And we can delete those multiple columns. Once we get them highlighted, then we can scroll over a letter and see that little drop down arrow. And from that menu, we can click delete the columns. So we should be able to delete them all at once. You can do them individually this way, but hopefully you're able to get multiple ones highlighted at once so you can get rid of them. Now we can also customize this badge code sheet by making it larger if we want. We've only got that single column. I personally use a color code system that I can share later. But this particular sheet is how you will award the badges to your students, or if you choose to let your students enter the badges they've earned, you'll give them the code. So you can lengthen your column here if you wish. Now, the most important part, though, is the badge display, where students can see their actual badges they earn. So within the student sheet, we're going to add a third sheet. Keep sheet 1, but you want to click a plus symbol, and you should get a sheet 3. We're going to rename sheet 3. So if you click the arrow, you're going to get rename from the menu. And we're going to change sheet 3 to badge display. So we'll have sheet 1, badge display, and badge list all in this student spreadsheet. Our master badge sheet only has one tab at the bottom. So make sure you have this. You want to make your display sheet now optimal for viewing and managing. I find 10 columns is ideal. So you're going to use that delete column process that we just did to get rid of K through Z. So you want to be left with A through J. And this is a good time to give your sheet a title because it's going to become that template that you create for each, to make copies from for each student. So again, remember to delete those columns. So you should have your student badge collection. And you should only have columns A through J. We want to adjust it now for badge display. Go up to that awesome box. The awesome box is the box that's under that FX for functions, above the numbers, and to the left of the letters. When you click in that box, it's going to highlight the entire sheet. It should all turn blue. Then you can direct your arrow or cursor in between your 1 and your 2, and then drag it to increase the height of your cells. So when you do this, every cell in your sheet's going to adjust. This is going to give you those perfect little squares for showing off those great badges. If needed, you can adjust it a little bit later as you start seeing what the badges start to look like. Now, we want cells to remain blank or empty until a badge is earned. So here we have to set up a formula for each cell. This is going to get tricky again. So we have to be sure we copy this great big long formula correctly. This is the formula we're actually going to copy. I'm breaking it down into smaller chunks. You want equals, if, parentheses, capital S for sheet, 1, exclamation point, then you want A, 2 equals, that's the first part. No spaces as you do quotation marks, so double quotation marks, comma, quotation marks, comma again, then image, parentheses, V look up, parentheses, and then sheet 1, exclamation point, A2, comma. Then you're going to do an apostrophe and you're going to write badge list. You do have a space between badge and list. Then exclamation point, $, A, $, 2, colon, $, D, comma, then the number 4, comma, false, parentheses, comma, 3, parentheses, parentheses. This is a huge formula. Each part has to be precise or the linking won't happen. So take time to make sure you have each element. When I was doing this, I kept messing up this part and it got really frustrating. So I learned I just had to go through and check each and every character carefully. Now let's test it. Let's see if it works. Remember that master badge sheet? Well, your badges need simple codes, which can be letters and or numbers. Go back and make sure you've given your first badge a simple 2-3 character code. So in this sample, I've got BG for Badge Genius and BG2 for Badge Genius Level 2. That's in my master badge sheet. Now go over to the student badge sheet again and go into that sheet 1 where your badge codes are. And in the first cell, test out your letters. And then if you look back in sheet 3, you should see the badge appear. If your formula is correct, your badge will appear. If your badge does not appear, you need to go back and check the code again. It should be instant. As you check this first badge, you can see if you need to resize to make your cell a little bit larger in the display. So it's a good time to do that. Now that it works, we've got to get the formula into all the cells in the display. But we can copy it into each cell we want. But we have to modify the formula to match our badge codes list so that each new badge entered shows up in a new cell box for display. So when we copy that into the next cell, there are 2 parts we do have to change. Copying it makes sure we get everything correct. But notice how you've got where it said sheet A2. This time you want to change it to A3. So you want this cell to reflect A3. You'll know you're correct in changing it in both places if it turns orange. So both should turn orange. The A is going to stay the same. The A actually refers to that badge list sheet. And then the number is going to correspond to that row as we work our way down. Moving into the next cell, it's going to change to A4, A5, and we're going to move our way along. You're going to repeat this across that entire first row of the display sheet. You're going to go all the way to column J, and then in J, it should be A11. So take your time to go through each individual cell and make sure you go sequentially. Again, this is a step where it's really easy to make a boo-boo. This was one of the things that I had to spend a lot of time going back and tweaking. Now, after you've set up that top row, going back in and checking to make sure you have A2, A3, A4, A5, A6, A7, A8, A9, A10, A11, you can copy the entire row. Click on the number of row 1 to highlight that entire row and click Control-C. Then, to paste it, go to row 2, click on the 2 to highlight the entire row, and Control-V to paste all of those formulas. You've got to change the formula in each cell in both places, but this time you're going to be numbering them A12, 13, and so on. You're keeping A. You've got to check every cell carefully. If you don't get the correct number in the sequence both times, it won't link up. This part is time consuming, but once you're sure you've got it and it works, you've got a template you can use forever. So go ahead and you can pause and do this for row 2 and go ahead down to row 3, making sure you're numbering your cells carefully. So you continue changing those formulas then anytime if you want to add 4, 5. I eventually will build up, I think, 2 more badges and perhaps have enough for 100. But be sure you've at least got these first 2 rows set up because now we've got a new step. Once you've got it and you've checked it, we're going to hide the badge list. You can view it again, but to hide it, you want to click on the arrow next to badge list and select Hide Sheet. If later you wish to access it, you can go up to the View tab and you can select Hidden Sheets. You've got it now. You can now give each student their own copy that's accessible by just you and that student. Make a copy. I usually change the name to the student, so I'm going to say this is now Susan's Student Badge Collection, and I'm going to click OK. And then when I go to share Susan's badge collection with Susan, I can select that she can view it only if I want to award her badges, or I can select edit where she can enter her own. I'd recommend for younger students you let them view because if they accidentally click in that master cell and delete a formula, they're not going to get badges anymore. But that's your personal choice. View only if you're going to add the badges. Permissions to the students. Now that you've got a way for students to collect badges, remember that any new badges you create in your master sheet are going to automatically link up to the students. Here's where I color code for organization for myself. I like to highlight the 10 cells in the rows 2 to 11 that are going to correspond to row 1 in my badge sheet. That way I know if I want to put a badge in a different row, I've got colors that kind of help me organize that. So it kind of looks like this. In sheet 1, let's say I enter BG in that 5th cell, and in the badge display it's going to show up in that 4th cell. Let's say I enter BG2 in the 13th cell, it's going to show up like that. So have fun creating and awarding your own badges. And feel free to contact me at any time for support. You can reach me on Twitter with Mrs. Weber Reed or at my school address. Good luck!